All right, it's my honor and pleasure to introduce our two panelists. First is Heidi Friedman. Heidi is the owner of Friedman Elder Law Department, LLC. She is one of only a few board-certified elder law attorneys in Florida with experience in elder law, Medicaid, and Veterans Administration programs. She specializes in crisis planning to qualify seniors for government benefits, as well as estate planning for the 65-plus population with a focus on asset protection against the cost of long-term care. Heidi sits on a number of boards for different agencies and nonprofit organizations which concentrate on providing knowledge, support, and assistance to and for the aging population. In her role as an elder law attorney, Heidi has assisted hundreds of her clients obtain government benefits to help pay for long-term care, resulting in significant savings for each family. Heidi is a Florida native, sister of 2 Army veterans, and a mother of 2 sons, one with special needs. So we welcome Heidi today. And Denise Littau.
Thank you.
Denise joined National Care Advisors in October of 2020. She graduated with a BA in political science from Pacific Lutheran University and subsequently a Juris Doctorate from Seattle University. After graduation, Ms. Littau worked as a research assistant at the Institute of International Law in Kiel, Germany, and later, after the fall of the Berlin Wall, she worked as a senior lecturer at Humboldt University in Berlin. Upon her return to the United States, Ms. Littau practiced law before entering the banking industry. Her banking career has been entirely focused on servicing the disabled and/or the elderly. She worked for an 8-year stint at SunTrust Bank as a trust advisor in the Special Needs Trust Department, followed by nearly 5 years at Wells Fargo as a senior advisory specialist in the area of life management services, which catered to the needs and concerns of the older clientele. From 2018 to 2020, Ms. Littau served as Vice President of Advancement at Secured Futures. Ms. Littau is a board member of both the Jewish Federation and Jewish Foundation of Broward County. Denise is currently serving as the co-chair for the Strategic Impact Teams for the Jewish Federation. She is the immediate past chair for the Jewish Women's Foundation and also is a Lion of Judah. She is a co-founder of the L.C. Hastings Black Jewish Alliance, along with Jody Hastings and Evan Goldman. Denise is married, mother of 1 son, Maximilian, and an avid traveler, reader, and Formula One enthusiast. Please welcome Ms. Littau. So we're going to present today 2 different scenarios and regarding financial questions and protecting our residents' assets. And so first off, the first scenario 1 is Mr. and Mrs. Richardson are ages 75 and 73. They have been married for 42 years and have 3 children and 7 grandchildren. They have the following assets: a home worth $350,000 with no mortgage, cash, $152,000 in the checking and savings accounts, car and miscellaneous worth a total of $25,000, stocks and inventory worth $250,000, and Mr. Richards has an IRA of $230,000. They have the following income: Mr. Richards, $2,100 in Social Security, a $350 pension, and a $902.77 of RMD. And Mrs. Richards has $1,100 in Social Security. Mr. Richards was recently diagnosed with Alzheimer's. While he is still able to take care of himself, he is starting to show signs of memory loss. So question number one, which is for Denise, is the Richards want to prepare for the future, and when Mr. Richards will need more care. Are there any benefits or programs that the Richards should look into now?
Okay, the way that typically we would approach this is before we actually got to an analysis of benefits is really a conversation with regard to the quality of life for both Mr. and Mr. Richardson. So in terms of, first we'll start with Mrs. Richardson. How much unpaid care is she actually providing to Mr. Richardson? So we would actually look at a calculation of how many hours she's actually spending and perhaps any other family members that may be assisting with providing care. Then we would take a look at the actual physical and mental, I will say, constitution of Mrs. Richardson to try to establish realistically how long would she be able to keep up with assisting with her husband's care. And it would lead eventually to some sort of conversation as to, should she no longer be able to do so, what the costs look like in terms of an assisted living facility, if that is even an option, or what it would look like staying at home, should he remain at home. And if this would escalate into 24/7 care, how they would be able to bear that financially. Given the scenario as provided, they really would not qualify for anything currently, mostly because their resources and their assets are simply too high. Most of the programs that provide long-term care, the majority of them, are really Medicaid-based programs. So in terms of benefits, we're not looking at government benefits, but there may be other things that they have to them or available to them, but currently nothing with regard to something from the government.
All right, thank you. Question number two is for Heidi. Are there any steps that the Richards can take to start to protect their assets against the cost of long-term care?
So there are a couple of government programs that will help pay for long-term care, whether you're at home, in an assisted living facility, or in a nursing home. One of the main programs that we work with is Medicaid Home and Community-Based Waiver Program. That particular program, if you are at home, would provide services. And if you are in an assisted living facility that accepts Medicaid, it will pay the service portion of the bill, right now equating to about a savings of about $1,500 a month. If eventually Mr. Richards needs to go into a nursing home, nursing homes we all know can cost anywhere from about $10,000 to $12,000 a month. Medicaid ICP, the other program under Medicaid that will help pay for long-term care, will pay the service portion of the bill. Will pay the entire cost of the bill for a shared room minus Mr. Richards' gross monthly income. And we could even possibly get some of his income diverted back to Mrs. Richards as long as we get her meeting the qualifications. At this time, with them being 72 and 73, however, we would be looking at more of a pre-planning case. And what does that mean? We would use the estate plan that they have in order to start protecting some of their assets against the cost of long-term care in the future. What would that estate plan look like? We would do a revocable trust for Mrs. Richards. A revocable trust is, like, I always try to explain it like a box. We create a box, and you're going to put your assets into that box. But what we would also do is a Medicaid Asset Protection Trust for them. What is that? That's an irrevocable trust. Anytime I tell a client that we're doing an irrevocable trust for them, they seem to get very concerned. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have absolutely no control over my assets. I'm not going to do anything that's irrevocable. But in the truth, the irrevocable trust can still provide a lot of flexibility. Using an irrevocable trust and transferring some of their assets into that irrevocable trust, we can then prepare them for the future and being able to qualify for some of these benefits in the future. if Mr. Richards really needed that service or some services at home right now, it was more of a crisis planning where Mrs. Richards could no longer take care of him and they really needed to get some services in the home, we could do some crisis planning and still be able to get them qualified for that government benefit to help pay for some services within the home. So at this point, our recommendation would be really and truly to use your estate plan. Now, I know a lot of people come to us, they already have an estate plan or they don't have anything. But if you're doing an estate plan, if you have an estate plan, many people, if anybody here have an estate plan yet? I mean, I can barely see out there, but nobody has an estate plan, will, trust, nothing? You do, right? You have it. And most of the times when I'm doing this, you have it back there? Awesome. Most of the time when I'm doing this, I'm usually saying like, so how old is your estate plan? I mean, usually a lot of people do it either, 20 years ago when I had kids or now.
Mine was 2003 in California, then I moved here.
Right?
And I put it in Florida code.
Good.
And then when my husband passed in 2016, I went back,
Good for you.
you know.
See, that's good. But most people will do their estate plan back when their kids were little and then never look at it again. And when they come to me, I'm like, well, did your life change since, 20 years ago? If your life changed 20 years ago, your estate planning should change. And at this point in your life, your estate planning should change. And it should be there to help you protect assets, to help you qualify for government benefits, to be there so that when issues do happen, you are properly set up. So
I would
where'd
say
our monitor go?
Oh, 1 second. To that point, what we are trying to encourage people to do while they are doing estate planning is actually to bear in mind that as we are living longer, we're actually having longer periods of disability. That is just an actual fact. So in addition to, planning for, I'll just say your demise, it's great that everybody now does wills and trusts, that's wonderful, but what type of thinking or thought is going into what's happening in those later years? So what we're trying to have people do is to actually document how it is that you want to live, your preferred way of living, and then to have some type of someone to assist you with cost projections as to what that's going to look like. So if you absolutely want to stay in your home, you should know what that would cost, especially if you needed 24/7 care. If you wanted to or felt that it was better to move into an assisted living facility, what that would look like and what those costs would be. And we could also look at transportation and other measures. So really, the whole point of this is to have everyone put some consideration into not only their documents, but also the implementation of what is this going to look like when I'm not actually able to make my own decisions. So you will have that legal framework available for who will be taking care of stuff, the actual, what it is that you actually want. And then this is where I say, be yourself a control freak. You want to have it down how you want to have it. You don't want people guessing what you may have wanted. You want to have that actually documented. It's just as important as the legal documentation or financial planning.
So, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you, Denise.
I'm going to respond to that just because I think it's like a really important subject. And that goes to the difference between having documents and having a plan. You can go online right now and pull up a durable power of attorney right off the internet. And I can tell you that as an attorney, I probably see 4 or 5 durable power of attorney a week, I don't know about you, that are inappropriate because somebody has pulled them off the website. There's a big difference between just having documents and having a plan. A plan where you know what it's going to cost you in your future to pay for care. Care is very expensive. I don't know if anybody out there is getting care, but it is a very expensive process. And even though we think that we're going to be able to take care of our loved one as they age, I will tell you it is very challenging to continue to take care of somebody 24 hours, as I'm sure many of you know. So you do have to plan. It's not just pulling documents off of the internet and filling out a document. So a big part of your estate planning is making sure that you are taking into consideration, how much is this going to cost me? How much is this going to cost me with or without benefits? and then doing the proper estate planning so that you are putting where your assets where they need to be so that you can qualify for these benefits in the future.
Correct. Thank you. Let me throw this question to both Ms. Littau and Ms. Friedman. Mr. Richards is progressing quicker than expected, and Mrs. Richards is finding herself doing more and more. Mrs. Richards is starting to need some help now in the house. Either Ms. Littau or Ms. Friedman, are there any programs that you would recommend or will provide any services in the home itself?
Sure, she could, I'm assuming that he's now eligible and qualifies for Medicaid.
Or we-
Pardon?
we got him there.
Okay, in that case, they should look into PACE, which does provide some of that home care. You do have to be eligible for Medicaid. Some people are dually eligible, that is eligible for not only Medicaid but also Medicare. And that is basically what Florida has done with regard to what is called I forgot what it stands for, HCBS. That's, instead of, they no longer have it for the elderly, essentially. They've eliminated it, and now what they have is what is utilized is through the PACE program, which does provide that. And again, you do have to be eligible for Medicaid.
All right.
So again, Medicaid is a huge umbrella of different services. We have services for pregnant women. I have a son with special needs. He's got Medicaid insurance. But Medicaid also has two specific programs that will help pay for long-term care. The main program that will help pay for Mr. Richards, or help at least Mrs. Richards, is the Home and Community-Based Waiver Program. That particular program will provide services in the home. The greatest thing about ADRC is that ADRC is basically the place that you go to actually get on a wait list in order to be able to qualify and get approved for that particular program. Once you're qualified and approved for the program, then what Medicaid will do is provide services in your home health care, meals, transportation, housekeeping, care management, different programs that are different services in your home so that you will be able to remain at home for a longer period of time. If you have to go into an assisted living facility, you would need to go into an assisted living facility that accepts Medicaid. Oakmont is one that accepts Medicaid, so I like to say that don't think of this as like a Medicaid facility. There are some absolutely gorgeous ones that accept Medicaid. What Medicaid will pay for is the service portion of that bill. And then again, if you go into a skilled nursing. Also, if you were a veteran or surviving spouse of a veteran who served during wartime, at least 90 days during a wartime period, 1 day during service. You do not have to have seen combat, but you have to have at least been in there 1 day during the service periods. We can get you qualified for another benefit called aid in attendance. Aid in attendance is a dollar amount that's paid directly to the veteran and or a surviving spouse of a veteran, as long as you weren't remarried or as long as you did not get divorced. You can get a dollar amount that's paid directly to you to help also to pay for care, either while you're at home or an assisted living facility.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Friedman, to follow up, since Mr. and Mrs. Richards do not financially qualify for the Medicaid program that you're talking about right now, is there anything else that they can do so they can qualify right now? Or do they have to wait until they run out of their money?
So, no, they don't have to wait till they run out of money. There are government-approved planning strategies that we're able to use to qualify somebody for Medicaid benefits and or VA benefits within 30 days. So the short answer to that is no, they do not have to wait.
Okay, and this for Denise. Mrs. Richards can no longer take care of Mr. Richards at home. Where can she move him, and is there any benefit or assistance that can help pay for the cost?
I think Heidi just really covered
Sorry.
just covered that. No,
All right.
that's fine. But again, there are
Just to reiterate.
Yeah, just to reiterate, there are various programs through Medicaid that could be utilized for Mr. Richardson.
Do you want to talk a little bit more about what PACE is? Like a little bit more of that, because it is
Yeah.
different from the program.
Yeah, with PACE, Mr. Richards could, of course, remain at home and could receive care at home. So that is, of course, a great benefit as opposed to, and especially if that's not their ideal, if it's not their ideal for him to move into an assisted living facility or eventually a skilled facility, it certainly would be advantageous to look into some of the PACE programs. And there's one Miami Jewish runs one, as well as Morse Life in South Florida.
And Heidi mentioned the VA aid and attendance benefit. The question to the scenario applies in this regard, Heidi. Mr. Richards was in the Army and served during the years of 1968 to 1971. He never left the state and did not actually see any combat. Does he qualify for any benefits from the VA?
Again, yes, he can qualify for aid and attendance, although I will tell you back in 2018, the VA aid and attendance or the veterans decided to put in some financial requirements in order to qualify. Right now, in order for a veteran and or a surviving spouse to qualify for VA aid and attendance benefits, together the couple can have no more than $138,400 in assets. It excludes their house, family vehicles, and prepaid burials. Everything else counts. In addition, their gross monthly income must be outweighed by unreimbursed medical expenses. If they do not meet those requirements, there is planning that can be done in order to get them to meet those requirements. Let me say one thing about Medicaid, because we didn't talk about what the requirements are for them. In order to qualify for the Medicaid program, there is 4 different requirements. 1, you have to be a citizen of the United States. 2, you have to be a resident of the state of Florida, and the reason why is because Medicaid is a federally funded program, but state-run. So each state has its own rules and regulations. So just understand that we are talking about Florida Medicaid. 3, you have to medically need the program, and 4, you have to meet the financial requirements. The financial requirements are that, number 1, you cannot have more than $137,400 if you are a community spouse, but the individual who needs Medicaid can have no more than $2,000. In addition, the community spouse can have unlimited income, whereas the individual who needs Medicaid can have no more than $25,23 in gross monthly income. But Medicaid is extremely generous that if both husband and wife need Medicaid, they can have no more than $3,000 worth of assets in their name. Again, it excludes a house, car, prepaid burials.
Very good, thank you. Any other questions on the first scenario that we went through? Okay, now we're going to go to scenario number 2. And the example here is Kathy's mom is 86 and was living on her own until she recently fell and broke her hip. She still owns her home, worth $325,000, plus she has a savings account with $20,000. An annuity worth $30,000 and checking account varies depending upon her bills. She only receives $1,200 in Social Security. Heidi, to throw this question to you, is how can Kathy's mom qualify for Medicaid ICP benefits?
So just really quickly, because I know that we're running really
we're
short
running
on
short.
time, that, again, there are government planning strategies that we can use in order to help somebody qualify for those benefits. But I think we wanted to try to throw it out to the audience to see if anybody had any questions. I know it's been a little bit choppy because we are trying to stay on time.
So anybody
So-
have any questions? Yes.
Questions?
Right there.
So, I take care of my dad, who now lives with me, my home with me and my husband. And, he gets Social Security. He doesn't get any more income or anything like that. Me and my husband work, but I know, God forbid, when my dad cannot do any more daily activities of living, I can't quit my job to take care of him.
Right.
So what you're talking about right now is to do estate planning. So that's estate planning for me to come do, or it's for him?
No, it would be for your father because, and again, that's a really good question because a lot of people ask me those questions. It's your father's estate planning. It's his assets that count. It's his income that counts, not yours. So it would be for your father to do either some kind of estate planning to start protecting those assets against the cost of long-term care in the future. Or if you needed to get services now, it would be doing more of a crisis plan using some government benefits or government planning strategies in order to allow him to qualify for those benefits now.
And one follow-up. Go ahead. Go ahead, follow up.
No, but I was gonna, follow this question. What about to qualify for the CARE pilot, qualify for the state? Would it take into consideration her income and her husband's income?
Absolutely not. No.
It will be just his income.
Because based on the question, like I did try to get some type of assistance, even like for meals and stuff, and I was denied. He was denied for it. I mean, he gets $1,000 income, and that's it, and he was denied. Maybe I filled it out wrong.
So here's the thing, and I don't know how you find this because so Denise helps people do the application process. Application process are not user friendly. I'm just going to be honest. They seem like they are, but they're really not. So it's possible that for example, I get a lot of people who get denied for the home and community-based waiver program because they don't realize they have to go on a wait list, come off the wait list, and then get a slot to be able to apply. They just go straight in and apply. So it could be something on how you handled the application. I know Denise's company does that. If he has assets or if he has too much in income, there's different income requirements for different Medicaid programs. So that could be why.
We strongly recommend to see one of these two professionals up here. Yes, ma'am. Okay, one more question, then we have to wrap up. This lady right here.
You keep saying it pays for the service portion of the care. What does that mean, service portion? Is there something that's not covered?
The service portion is usually pertaining to the medical care. That's what they mean.
When you go into an assisted living.
Right.
Right, it will not pay for room and board. Remember, the Medicaid programs are paying for the service, the medical portion, whether it's services at home or in an assisted living facility. When you go into an assisted living facility, there's a room and board charge and what level of care do you
The
need?
service is for the health care portion of the care.
You don't.
Yeah, that's a whole different discussion, but we have to wrap up now. We thank you for everybody's attention. We thank these two fine people up here. Thank you, Ms. Friedman. Thank you, Ms. Latau. Everybody have a nice day.